Good afternoon, folks, and maybe good morning to anybody joining from New Zealand. Welcome to our release demo webinar. We are happy to be here to show you all the functionality and development that we have completed in our 2022 Carl Solution Release 1. I have our usual lineup today. My name is Ebony Pacheco-Hoos. I am the manager of Carl Product Management in the Denver office. And I have our wonderful product owners here today, Beth Lazarzik, go ahead and give a wave, Beth, Jessica Seibold, and Lisa Dibburn. And we're going to follow our usual pattern today where Beth will be talking about Carl X, Jessica will be talking about Carl Connect staff, Lisa will go over Carl Connect Discovery, and I'll wrap up with just a little bit of APIs to show you all today. We're excited with this release. Release notes did get posted a couple of days ago on Carl Community, and you can always access them there. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Beth to go over Carl X functionality. And keep in mind, if you do have questions, you can always enter them into the questions widget in GoToWebinar, and I will make sure Beth has a chance to answer them or answer them myself. So go ahead, Beth.
All right, let me just get situated here and share my screen. Ebony, have you given me the ability to share my screen?
As a panelist, you should be able to, but let me go ahead and take a look.
I'm seeing share my webcam, but not, oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right, thank you. All right, are we good to go? You can see my screen?
We are, go right ahead.
Awesome. Okay, great. So as Ebony shared, I'm going to demo some new functionality and improvements that were made in Carl X version 9.7.2. We've added a couple of important new additions to Carl X administration that pertain to features in Carl Connect Discovery and Carl Connect Staff. And we also added a few new improvements in Carl X Staff. And I'm going to start today in Carl X Administration. And the first new option that we added into Carl X Administration is the ability for library staff to add or update the hours that appear for various branches in Carl Connect Discovery Mobile. And I'll go ahead and pull up mobile here. So if you're not familiar, when you're in Carl Connect Discovery Mobile, there is an option to view locations and hours of the individual branches, and that's right here. Today, when a branch wants to edit these hours or add to them, they need to let their ILS administrator know, and then the ILS administrator needs to open up a help desk ticket, and then the OSC needs to send a request to our database administrator, who then makes the change. And while we are able to turn these requests around fairly quickly, we're always looking for ways that we can give our libraries more local control. And I'm excited to share that with Carl X 9.7.2, ILS admins can now update these hours themselves on behalf of their branches with a new option in branch maintenance. So you can see here, there currently aren't any hours listed for our Edgewater branch. And I'll go back to Carl X administration. And in our institution parameters for branch maintenance, we now have this hours tab that provides you with a grid where you can enter open and close times for each branch and also edit any hours that might already be populated in here. Adding hours in this grid and saving them updates the library timetable in the Carl X database, so the changes happen in real time. I do want to note that this interface does not currently allow you to delete hours from the grid, so a help desk ticket will still be needed for those instances. So I'll go to the Edgewater branch, and I am in my hours tab, and I'll add some hours for Tuesday and save those. So now I'll go back do a refresh. Do another refresh. Let's try that. Okay, so there we go. So I must not have actually clicked save that first time. So as you can see, these do populate right away. The next addition that I want to show is related to some development in Carl Connect staff that Jessica will be showing in greater detail in just a little bit. And that is a new set of user permissions for the Carl Connect staff user overview interactions. And that is work that began with the Go Lost functionality in the Checkout tab. As part of this development story, we've given library administrators the ability to determine who can access user overview and who can also interact with transactions on a patron's account. So I am in Security Manager of CarlX Admin, and we have a tab that sets up the security permissions for Carl Connect specifically. And under Circulation, we have these new user overview permissions. With Access User Overview Interactions selected, the user will not be able to open, or sorry, the user will be able to open user overview from checkout, check-in, and user information. If it's not selected, the user overview link won't be available. For checkouts, we have this new mark items as lost permission. And this allows users simply what it says, that they're able to mark items as lost within that checkouts tab. So as we add additional functionality to this checkouts tab and user overview, this list of permissions here is going to grow. So the ability to mark things as claims never had, for example, will get its own permission here once that development is complete. This will make more sense when Jessica walks you through the interactions in Carl Connect staff, but I did want to share that we do have permissions in CarlX admin to determine which users or groups of users can access this new functionality as we continue to offer that granularity within our security that our customers really value. And with that, I will head over to CarlX staff to talk about a few new features and improvements that we've made with 9.7.2 there. The first thing that I want to talk about is an improvement that we made to most of our circulation by reports. That's meant to help gather a more accurate count of in-house circulations in these reports. So an example of an in-house circ would be something like a patron was reading a book on a couch in the library, and then they left it there without actually checking it out. This book then gets picked up and scanned through return, so the use of it is recorded and then can be reported out on. In-house circulations are noted as on-shelf returns, and that info is coming from a discharge shelf status within the TX log of the database. But this discharge status gets written for things other than just on-shelf returns. So we wanted to give customers the option to narrow this down a bit and again, get a more specific look at their in-house circs if they would like. I'll open the circulation by branch report to look at an example. And based on what I just shared, we have added an option to include all of the discharge shelf transactions when running these circ by reports. Selecting yes here will retain the same functionality that you have today in pre-9.7.2 versions. It will bring back all on-shelf returns regardless of the item status before or after the return. So it's going to pick up things like when we mark something as found and then fill a hold, that will be a DS transaction, and then a hold will be captured in the database. So again, it's picking up more than just in-house circs. If you want to narrow down what is returned in this report and not include every single DS transaction, selecting no is only going to include on-shelf returns where the item status before or after is on shelf. So it's really limiting to those true in-house circulations. We can take a look at the output here of our circulation by branch report, so I can show you where this is. And it's this on-shelf return column that we're talking about. So this new parameter is giving libraries more control over the data that is returned for these on-shelf returns. Most of our circ by reports, oops, I don't want to look at it in admin. I still want to look at it in staff. Most of our circ by reports do contain these DS transactions, so they're going to include this new parameter. However, there are a couple that don't contain DS transactions, so you'll notice that they don't have this new parameter, and those are circ by call number and circ by language. But as a general rule, you're going to see that new option in just about all of the circ by reports. So that is our reports improvement in 972. Let's talk about a couple of improvements that were made in item information in CarlX, and then I will hand it over to Jessica to show you Carl Connect Staff 168. So we've made a super helpful improvement to our searching functionality in item information. So when we search by a BID in item information, we get our bibliographic record information at the top, and we get our results grid that displays all of the items that are attached to the BID. In this case, we have 13. However, prior to version 972, if you were to search by an item number, the search would bring back all of this title information at the top, but it would only return the specific item that you were searching for. Now we're pleased to share that searching by an item number, let's do that really quickly so you can see, is going to return, maybe I have a space in there. Searching by an item number now is going to return all of the items that are attached to the BID, and it's going to list the specific item that you searched for at the top of the grid. And of course, you can then sort by any of the columns that you might like. So this is a seemingly small change, but one that will really streamline the search experience for staff. You won't have to copy the BID and then go back and search to get that full list. It's going to just pull those up for you with that item search, and that's something that our customers have been requesting. The final improvement that I want to mention, but I can't really show, are some updates that we made to support TechLogic Circuit integration. Circuit is a shelf management system that allows a library to scan an entire collection and get real-time item status updates, and it communicates with CarlX via SIP2. So it's not just the scanning tool, it really helps you better understand your collection. So to that end, we're now including the last seen date within the item record as part of this communication with CircTrack. To achieve this, we created a new SIP2 flag that will update the last seen date when an item information request, so number 17, is received from TechLogic. And we also updated the Carl APIs to ensure that we're populating the last seen date in the item record. I do want to note that this action is set by the INI for the interaction with CircTrack, so it isn't visible within CarlX staff, but we have added a new column to the item table in the database called last seen. So this information is available through ad hoc reporting, and this new view is outlined in the ad hoc data dictionary. So those are the updates that I wanted to touch on for CarlX 972. There were also some bug fixes as well And you can read about those in the release notes that, as Ebony mentioned, are posted up on Carl Community. And with that, I will hand it over to Jessica, who is going to show you what is new and exciting in Carl Connect staff. I will
All right. Well, I'm
stop
going to
showing my screen. There we
make
go.
Jessica the presenter. And while Jessica is getting ready, there was a question about if the hours also impact hourly loans. And yes, I did want to confirm and let the group know that overall that library timetable is used not only by Carl Connect Discovery Mobile to show hours, but it's also utilized by the CarlX client for hourly loans to be able to, again, take into account library hours when checking out those hourly loans that may prevent an item from being checked out too close to a library's closing time. It may also be utilized when determining what that due date is, again, if that allow overnight checkout is available for those hourly loans. Now, again, for clarity's sake, that library timetable existed prior to our development in 972. We just added an interface in CarlX administration that allows you all to interact, your library system administrators, to interact and actually update those hours. So just clarifying that a little bit. And with that, I'll stop talking and turn it over to Jessica.
Thanks, Beth and Ebony. So this year has seen the start of some exciting functionality in Carl Connect Staff. Connect Staff is where we have a major focus of our development right now in order to continue moving functionality over from CarlX with a goal of having Connect Staff be a fully functional solution on its own. So this release, version 168, saw some major progress in that direction with the beginning of our user overview interactions in circulation and continued work on acquisitions, as well as some other important improvements. So first, let's take a look in circulation. I'm going to go ahead and log in. And I'll select my branch. And then we're going to go ahead and go into circulation and go into library services where we arrive here at checkout. So first we're going to talk about alert lightbox updates. Functionality was updated so that in checkout in alert lightboxes, so that would be manual hard block, soft block, or user expired. If the X is selected, the lightbox closes and the patron account is not loaded into the checkout window. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and load my patron here. And you can see my user registration expired window comes up. So if I close this window using the X, you can see that I actually just returned back to my patron search window, which is where I was at before. So previously, it was bypassing and allowing the checkout if that X was selected, which was not really a great workflow there. So we are happy to improve the functionality there and have it be working as it should be. So next, let's take a look at our manual block workflow improvements. So I'm going to go back to our user services, open up my account here. So improvements to the manual block workflow were completed. So now when we are changing a user status to a manual block, a new window will open, which allows library staff to enter the required note there. So, oh, and I already have this one changed. Hold on, let me open up another patron. I didn't reset that. We'll see what this stats, this might be overridden. If I change this to a manual hard block, I get my window that comes up and I can put my note in there and then save my manual block. And you can see that my status is changed there. And then if we go back to our, I'll go ahead and save that. If we go back to my other account, because I don't think my registration is expired on that one, and I go to checkout, you can see that that manual block does prevent any checkouts from happening. So that is being correctly prevented there in Carl Connect Staff. And again, this is something that reflects the functionality that we do have in CarlX. Okay, up next, I'd like to show you our user overview interactions, which we are very excited about. Go ahead and pull up another patron here. So this release marks the beginning of the development for user overview interactions. And these interactions will continue to bring over some major functionality from CarlX in order to bring Carl Connect Staff even closer to being a complete circulation solution, which we are excited about. So I'm going to go ahead and select user overview here. And just a reminder, the user overview link is available here from the user information page, but it's also available from within our checkout page. So within this view, we began our user overview interactions in our checkouts tab here with our lost functionality. So you can see we have several buttons that have been added, including lost. Our lost button allows an item to be marked lost, which matches CarlX's Go Lost functionality. So when the item is selected and the lost button is clicked, a lightbox appears asking to confirm by either updating to lost, or you can go ahead and just close that window, the lightbox, to return to the screen. So as Beth showed us, with new functionality added to user overview and continued development in this area in future releases, permissions have been added to that CarlX administration for user overview, including this new mark items lost permission under user overview and checkouts. I believe our default, when you get the new release, we will have the mark items lost permission turned off. So if you would like that functionality available for your staff, then you will need to change that to on. Functionality associated with the additional buttons in this checkouts tab, so that would be the returned, never had, and damaged, will be available after further development. We also have our reset button here in case you'd like to start over with what you're working on when you're in here. Just a quick note, in addition to our new interactions, we also updated our user information tab to reflect the look and feel of our standard user information view. So the update allows library staff to edit a user's information directly via user overview. Just a quick note there, as we continue to make changes, there may be some fields that cannot be edited here, but for the most part, this is going to have similar functionality as our user overview or user information screen. While we are here still in user overview, I'll go back to checkouts, and we do have one other update. The user overview checkouts grid has been updated to display both the transaction branch as well as the items branch. So those are updated to provide, again, kind of as much information as possible, as quickly as possible while you're in here working. Okay, one last update to mention here in Connect Staff Circulation. I'm going to go to Library Services and Manage, and we will arrive here at our Connect Fave, our fill list. So all grids in here have been improved to allow the system to retain changes to column widths, even when you have refreshed the page or navigate away to another page and then return. So you can see if I change my column widths, even if I refresh or navigate away to another page and return, you can see that they stay the same. And this is true for all of our grids in Connect Staff. So prior, they would return to the default column widths each time. And now each grid should retain its own unique column widths for the whole session that you're working in there. And these column widths for all the grids are now stored in local storage. So hopefully this should improve the usability of the grids as staff are kind of using Connect out in the stacks. Okay, now that we've looked at circulation, we're going to take a look at our acquisitions invoice retrieval and display. So I'm going to go back to our desktop and go to acquisitions. So we're so excited to continue our work toward creating these new acquisition functions and workflows in Carl Connect Staff. This is not just bringing over functionality from CarlX, but rather the evaluation of what is truly needed to improve these workflows for our libraries. So to build on the initial development effort to look up and view invoices, this round of development has included the creation of an invoice tab. So I'm going to search with an invoice number. You can see I have two that come up here. I'm going to go ahead and select this first one. And as that invoice is selected from the Search Invoices grid, it opens up in its own tab to display all of the associated information. So at the top, you can see we have approval information, invoice number, invoice date, created date, goods received date, vendor, batch number, special charges, total costs, titles, specials, and copies. Below that, you'll see two grids. The first here is orders on this invoice, and so that displays the order number, title, title holds, status code, status description, fund, fund status, copies ordered, copies received, price, price total, cost, cost total, and notes. And then down below, we have a second grid, which is our special charges on this invoice. And this displays special charge number, type, status code, status description, fund, fund status, prorated, cost, and notes. So I'm going to go back to my Search Invoices tab, and I'm going to open up my other one. And you can see that this opens again in its own tab. So we can really travel easily between these tabs as we work with our order. As much as we are thrilled to see how this looks, much of the work done in this release on Connect Staff acquisitions dealt with the creating and updating of REST APIs for the functionality that we implemented. And more information on that is included in Carl API's version 202 release notes. Finally, generic acquisitions permissions were created in CarlX administration and connected to Carl Connect Staff. So again, as more functionality is added, more nuanced permissions will be added for acquisitions functionality. Now, development for Carl Connect Staff acquisitions will continue as we move into our next release. And our suggestion at this time is to leave permissions off until further development has been completed. We do have some additional bug fixes and other improvements within this release, and those have been outlined in our release notes. So as always, we continue to be very excited at the direction that Carl Connect Staff is going, and with all of the new and updated functionality that we were able to develop for our customers. And now I'll hand it off to Lisa for a look at updates in Carl Connect Discovery.
All right, thank you so much, Jessica. I'm going to go ahead and make Lisa the presenter, but also answer a couple of questions that came up. There was a question from Pamela asking if a manual hard block was the same as an urgent patron note. And I did want to clarify that overall, those are two separate pieces of functionality. Some sites have the ability, we have the ability to enable a new patron status, which is a manual hard block. So it's a new patron status code. And the workflow for that is that when there is a manual hard block, there must be a note associated with that manual hard block, and that would prevent the patron from checking out. The urgent note functionality is still available and in place as well. But for those libraries that are utilizing manual blocks, we wanted to make sure we covered both of those pieces of functionality. And then a question from Lenny asking if in the grids, do the columns reset once you log out? Do you want to go ahead and take that, Jessica, or would you like me to?
Oh, go for it.
Okay, and as I mentioned in the answer to Wendy on on the chat or the questions widget. The columns are tied to a PC or Mac browser local storage itself, and will be retained on that machine until that local storage might be cleared out. It is not based on the user login itself. It is completely based on kind of the browser local storage usage overall. So I did want to clarify that. And then the last thing I will mention before, again, stopping talking and letting Lisa take over. For acquisitions, again, you can definitely leave that off, but because it is all read-only at this point, there isn't any harm in enabling acquisitions for staff to be able to kind of take a peek and give us feedback overall. Again, we tried to do with a lot of that is put a lot of information into those views that is hidden right now, or that takes, going to 5 different places to see. So, within acquisition, within invoice display, we can see that there are holds on a particular title. We can see notes easily from that invoice view now. We can see, the encumbered status. We can see funds that are associated with it. So there's a lot of information there, and would love to get feedback from acquisition staff. It is read-only. It is applying any branch grouping that you may have on for acquisitions. So again, the best way to kind of say whether you like it or not is to get some of your staff in there and playing around and giving us feedback, so that we can continue to improve that experience overall. With that, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Lisa.
Thank you, Ebony. Hello, everyone. This is Lisa. I am your product owner for Carl Connect Discovery, as well as Suggested Purchase and OBR. And today we're going to be talking about some of our highlights to Carl Connect Discovery version 366. So we're going to get started with Carl Connect Discovery Save List availability. So with version 366, availability information is now displayed on Save List items, featured on Carl Connect Discovery Desktop and mobile via My Account. So previously, users had the option to select and view their Save List availability by clicking that oh-so-familiar Check Availability link within the Save List, and that would navigate users to the title details page. So now if we go ahead and log in as I already am and take a look at our saved list from My Account, I'm going to look at my baking list here. And we can see that the check availability link is no longer there, but what is displaying is our options for item availability at our local branch or our preferred branch. So we can see the first item has no copies available, the first couple actually. And then if we go down further in my list, we see there's one available at the Ayers Library. So I can just automatically place a hold on that item now if I'm interested in it. There's no need to select into that title again and go to title details. My action buttons of place hold and remove list are available to me. And if I did want to see other locations beyond my preferred branch, I would just have to click the Check Other Locations button to see all copies for this title. So that is our view in desktop. I'll go ahead and switch over to mobile real quickly and go ahead and view My Account and my Save List. And if we take a look at that baking list one more time, again, we have the view from mobile, no copies available, one copy available, and again, have the option to take an action on that title to place hold or remove it, or go ahead and check the rest of the copies in the collection. So a fun improvement that'll save you a little bit of time and hassle about having to go from title details back to save list when you're looking at availability for your items. All right, I'm going to move back to desktop and continue to talk about another improvement for Save List. So desktop now includes the respective download, place hold, or more options buttons for Overdrive items via Save List within My Account. So previously, these action buttons were only available in our mobile view via the Save List. So if I go ahead and take a look at my To Reads ebooks, we can see that we have our respective actions as far as if an item is not available, so an Overdrive item is already checked out and I want to place a hold on it, I'll have that option to place hold. If it's a e-audio, something like connecting to Access 360, I'll have the More Options button, and when I select that, it'll take me out to that third-party website. Or you can see that I have some available, and I have that option to go ahead and automatically download from not only Discovery, but via my save list. So more action buttons ready for you directly from your account. So again, saving you a little bit of time as far as having action at your fingertips via save list. So development was also completed to resolve an advanced search issue when including apostrophes in the title contains search. So I'm going to move to my advanced search page. So previously when users wanted to use the advanced search, title contains, so title contains is automatically our second field here. And they were going to do a search with an apostrophe. So our example today, we're going to be using Charlotte's Web. No search results were retrieved. So development included making this search field an exact match search so that results that included apostrophes are now successfully returned. So the title contains being an exact match search will now require that exact punctuation to be entered to return results. We did this because of the way that Lucene indexes certain characters and punctuation, like the apostrophe. It was necessary to make this an exact search to get our expected results. So if I go ahead and perform my search for Charlotte's Web, that includes the apostrophe, so it should be an exact match. It's the correct title, the correct spelling and punctuation. Give me just a moment here, I might need to refresh. Oh yeah, something was weird in there. Let me make sure I have no spaces, okay. I'm copying pasting, so I'm assuming that's what's wrong here. Okay. There we go. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So when I don't accidentally copy and paste other weird characters in there, we get the expected results for Charlotte's Web. So again, exactly matching all the titles that correctly use that appropriate punctuation for Charlotte's Web. Just to kind of reiterate, we did get some feedback that we also want users to be able to just search without punctuation and not be exact, and that's fine too. If we do a basic keyword search of Charlotte's Web, we still get expected results that include non-punctuation, and if we include our appropriate apostrophe in Charlotte's Web, again, we get even further results that are matching the correct title there. So we still have options. We're just refining our advanced search to make it more appropriate with search results. Another issue we resolved were branch numbers. Were appearing a little bit odd. They were actually appearing with the branch number instead of the branch name within Discovery. So once a user performed and saved a search, the issue would show up. And this issue caused the branch numbers that are set in CarlX to appear on the left-hand side of the filter menu, as well as within the search data on the save list. So I'm going to go ahead and demo that with a search for hot air balloons. The Hot Air Balloon Fest in Albuquerque was just a couple weeks ago. So if I do that hot air balloon search and then go ahead and say filter by my preferred library, and maybe I just want to see photo books of hot air balloons, I'm going to go ahead and save that search as hot air balloons. And just to demo that it is functioning correctly, we're going to navigate from my account to our saved searches. And if we go down and look at hot air balloons, not only do I have the appropriate search criteria displaying for book format and available at the AIRS library, when I go ahead and execute that search one more time, we can see I get the correct results, but more importantly, on the filters over here, I'm not seeing branch 1 or branch 11. I'm seeing the name of my branch that I would expect to see. Okay. The last thing I want to talk about for Carl Connect Discovery is our update to our app wrappers. So Carl Connect Discovery app wrapper is now updated to meet the new requirements from the app stores. All functionality remains the same as expected with Carl Connect Discovery Mobile, and this update is tied to version 366. So that means when you are ready to do this update, you do have to have your Carl Connect Discovery environments already in the version 366, and then just go ahead and open an LSN ticket. I know some of you already have those open to update the app wrappers, and we will be completing those and updating on a schedule. So yeah, happy for this update. I'm going to go ahead and throw it back to Ebony because this concludes the Carl Connect Discovery version 366 release demo.
Great, thank you so much, Lisa. Okay, now I'm going to make myself the presenter, so just give me one moment. There was a question from John Inman about if this version will allow for the change of the icon in their app wrapper, and I did mention, as you just mentioned as well, yes, that once the version is in production, it will allow us to submit an updated version of that app wrapper with the app stores. I can't find me to make me the presenter now. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to show my screen. Let's see which one it shows. Can Jessica, Beth, or Lisa tell me if you see my screen?
We can see your Dragon desktop.
Yes, so now if I open up Postman, can you see that?
No. I can see a notepad on the right-hand side.
I have
Oh, there
all, I think I just have to move things around.
And now we can see you moved it over there. Yep.
Okay, so I'm just going to, we are working through our release notes for our APIs, but I did want to, since a lot of this work again was so dependent on the APIs that we did create within CarlX or our Carl APIs, I wanted to talk just a little bit about those. Again, as you all know, or if you didn't know, our plan was, as we created new functionality and acquisitions, and any new functionality that we create in Carl Connect staff that would require new APIs, we are going to be doing those as REST APIs. So with our last release, we did start the creation of an invoices endpoint for REST. But with this development, we continued upon that. So the first thing that I want to talk about is I'm in Postman right now, so I'm just running our APIs from within this environment. With this release, we did do a lot of work in that already existing invoices call. So I'm going to go ahead and run that very quickly. And you can see within this invoices call, we do take an ID. So this is an invoice ID or invoice number, a CarlX invoice number, and a branch group. And I'm going to go ahead and send that particular request. And for this particular release, what we did was we updated this call to return a lot more data. As we were doing that development in the front end of Carl Connect staff acquisitions, we needed a number of different data elements to be able to pull those in and be able to display that information when you do that invoice search or that invoice lookup itself. So you can see within here, we have a lot more data fields that we are now returning, like the date that it was approved, created, the date it was invoiced, the date it was received, status information, vendor code information, whether there are notes. So it's kind of pulling all of that information into this particular API response. Next up, we worked on our orders associated with an invoice REST API. So I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And within here, you can see that, again, our parameters are going to be an invoice ID, again, a CarlX invoice ID or invoice number, a CarlX vendor code, so again, a CarlX vendor code, and that branch group. Again, all of our acquisitions functionality does allow for us to take advantage and use that branch grouping functionality for acquisitions. When I do send this particular call, I do get back information, and I'm going to get this set of information for every order that's associated with an invoice. So in this case, this order or this invoice has at least 4 different orders, 5 orders, 6 orders. So it's going to give you release or responses for each of those pieces of data, where I get things like, again, the order number, the amount cost, the total cost, the total cost if you had currency codes associated. You can see the BID information, the copies that were ordered, the copies that were received. You can see fund information, status code, status description. So a funny thing with some of these things is a lot of our status codes for invoices and for orders are all actually hard-coded directly within the CarlX client. So obviously getting that information out of the CarlX client and into the database where we can get to that data with an API was actually a lot of the work that we were working on, and we were kind of stumbling upon this as we were going through the development. So it was always a bit of a treasure map, really, to find and figure out the best way to display these. So a lot of these was trying to make some, again, information available that would allow us to display what we needed to display here within the grid. So we have our orders API, or the orders associated with an invoice API. Next up is our special charges API. So again, this is going to be special charges associated with an invoice, where we pass in an invoice ID, a vendor number, and a vendor code, and a branch group again, where we then get information about the special charges that are associated with an order. Again, information about the type of special charge, the amount of that, so in this case, preparation charge information, as well as vendor associated with it, the cost of that, the fund that it's coming out of, all of that information for that particular code. So now each of these are gets. So we get information from the database and then be able to display that within the front end. One of the other APIs that we worked on this last release was our first kind of post API. So within here, this is our Go Lost functionality. Again, Jessica showed you that functionality in the front end earlier. And when I am looking at it in the back end, there are 4 parameters when I am sending in or running this API. I send in my transaction branch, so the branch that I'm marking the item lost at. I send in an item ID, an alias, so the alias of the user completing this work, and then a report mode true or false. A report mode of true is going to allow the API to run and kind of give information about the fines and fees that will happen, that will be added when the item is actually marked lost. So that is what you saw when Jessica ran that or clicked on lost, and then we get a light box that gives us information about the fines and fees that are associated with that, with a follow on lost button or mark lost. So we have the ability to run it in report mode true, which it won't actually update it, and then a report mode of false that would actually update that item to lost and write those fines to the patron's account. So you can see any overdue fines, we can see a processing fee, and a lost fee that would be associated with these to be able to display that here. We are super excited to continue building these APIs and making changes to the APIs that we create to make them better. So there is a question here, any particular reason ACK APIs return JSON and the Circ APIs return XML? Again, with here, I may not know the technicality of your question, but our circulation APIs were done via SOAP. And it utilized that verbiage where, again, we were trying to do more modernized and updated APIs for new APIs that we are creating, and we are using REST-based and JSON information here. If there is a different technical question that I cannot answer, certainly feel free to let me know, and we will answer that. We are excited to kind of have a more modern APIs that we use, and as we create new APIs, we will continue to build these up. In addition, we are looking at how we can build up documentation to share with you all and schemas to make it a bit easier for us to have kind of a standard place for reviewing the APIs available. With that, that is what we have to show today. If you have any other questions, go ahead and put them into the questions widget. If you do not have questions today, but think of something later, you can always email us. We're always ready to hear questions, hear feedback overall, and we can go from there. And finally, thank you so much for joining us. This is being recorded and will be posted to Carl Community in the next couple of days. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, looks like no questions. I'm going to go ahead and end this. Have a great day.